Hello, this is Paula Rooney, senior writer at CIO, and I am here with CIO Brian Kirkland, who is heading up Choice International Hotels. It is a $10 billion, 80-year-old hotel chain, and I wanted to welcome Brian to this video cast. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Paul. It's great to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Well, can we start with maybe a brief description about your journey with the cloud and when you started it and what have been the business outcomes to date?
Sure. So, for those that don't know Choice Hotels, we are a global company, a hotel chain with about 7,500 hotels in 46 countries. So, it's a pretty big footprint of a technology firm. So, inside of our company, we see ourselves really as a mix of technology, hospitality, and franchising. For the technology piece, it's something that's been part of our DNA for a long time. So we started our cloud journey back in 2003. That's when we really did our first foray with the first ever cloud-based property management system. Real heavy investment for us in cloud, though, really started in 2017. That's when we launched the first ever uh, redesigned cloud-based, cloud-native central reservation system called Choice Edge. We launched that in 2017. We made a commitment to AWS in 2019 as the first hotel company to commit to going all in with AWS. And we started this journey of a 5-year journey to move entirely into the cloud. So as far as that plan goes, we're on track. We're going to be completed with that journey and that migration next year, and we'll have completed our all in with the cloud. But as everybody that's working in the cloud knows, that's step one of a million, right? There's a lot of things you can do, a lot of advantages you can take advantage of in the cloud that we're also working on at the same time. You asked me a little bit about some business benefits, right?
Business outcomes, sure.
Yeah. So a good example of that. With Choice Edge, we can onboard properties or onboard distribution partnerships. So where we're sending our hotel rates, inventory, availability out to the world, we can onboard 10 times faster than we used to be able to. Another good example is last year we launched a program called Choice Max. So we're using machine learning, we're using AI, we're using technology that's available in the cloud to actually drive value back to the company. So a good example of Choice Max is we have a hotel in downtown Nashville that showed a $400,000 a year incremental gain by just taking those recommendations that the system is giving them on what's the right price for that room, for that hotel, for that day, for that guest.
And one of your key priorities is sustainability. Can you explain for the audience how the cloud enables improved sustainability?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the main drivers a lot of companies see as kind of a byproduct. Usually, when they're looking to go to the cloud, they want to take advantage of the tech. They want to get the ability to scale on demand. They want to manage their costs differently, those types of things. But one of the big benefits that you're getting as a byproduct of that move to the cloud is a step up on sustainability. You're able to be more efficient with your workloads. You're able to use technology that uses less compute power, therefore it drives down carbon emissions. You're able to maximize your value and minimize your cost by being smart with how you use the tech in the cloud. You don't have to drive costs that are for the peak of your annual cycle for your business. Instead, you're using the tech, you're using the capabilities of the cloud real time, just in time, on demand for what you need to do. And if you're smart about it, you can really drive down your costs, but you can also be having a good impact on the environment. And so from the ESG perspective, the environmental aspect's pretty straightforward alignment with sustainability and something that the cloud helps you drive.
And Brian, you were one of the co-founders of sustainableIT.org. Can you tell us about the organization and how it came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So sustainableIT.org, it's really a collection of about 25 different senior executives, CIOs across any vertical, across many verticals. In fact, I'll show a screen here for everybody that's watching just to kind of see the footprint of the people that are involved in the program and involved in sustainableIT.org. But what it really is it's a collection of us CIOs that believe that we have a duty, we have a responsibility, and more than that, we have an ability to drive change and drive positive impact through technology, through IT. So this group of leaders came together spearheaded by the CEO at Delphix, Jed, and really formed this group to say, hey, it matters what we do as an industry and as technology leaders. We can have a big impact on the world and the environment around us. So it's time for us to step forward and do something about it, as opposed to expect somebody else to do the work. And so we formed this last year. We've been spending the last year working on getting it off the ground, getting partnerships, membership, that kind of thing. We did just launch the first ever standards around IT, specifically on how you drive sustainability. And so if anybody on the audience is really interested in learning more about it, I'll leave this up for half a second here, but it's a couple of QR codes. You can go learn a little bit more about what the organization is. You can learn about how to get be part of it. We're looking for people to help us carry that torch and carry that mantle. And then if you want to explore dive deeper into the environmental standards, you can go there and learn about them and learn about, okay, where do you get started? How do you actually look at your consumption? How do you find a way to make a difference with regards to the way you lead IT or the way you lead technology in your organization?
Well, that's great, Brian. I'm wondering now to what extent, or I should say, how much energy has been saved by your hotel alone by using some of these priorities.
Yeah, absolutely. It is something that a lot of people ask and don't know how to get access to. Just recently, Amazon, we're a big committed to Amazon company, so they've launched new tools. Like they have a new AWS carbon footprint tool. You can go out there, you can look at your carbon footprint, you can look at the emissions that you're generating through your workloads and see what kind of an impact you're having. And to give an example for us at Choice, just looking at that tool alone, last year, according to the data Amazon's gathering, we saved 480 million or metric tons of carbon emissions. So it's a huge footprint just of savings that we had by leveraging what they're doing in the cloud. And according to Amazon, according to the Natural Resource Defense Council, they really think that they're getting a 3 to 4 times higher server utilization when you're in the cloud, and you're able to be 88% more efficient on their cloud than you are in on-premise data centers, and that's obviously based off of their data. But by leveraging that information and our footprint and their commitment to be 100% on renewable energy in the next couple of years, that is a way that all of the people on the phone here, we can really piggyback on that effort and drive that sustainability effort forward for the work you're doing in your company.
And that's very significant. Can you tell us the cloud microservices that best serve sustainability goals? I think Lambda is one. Could you talk a little bit about Lambda and the rest of the other? You mentioned carbon footprint.
Yeah, Lambda is for those that don't know what a Lambda or Lambda service is from Amazon. It's really just a serverless technology. So think of it this way: you're running a workload, you're running some sort of business logic, and instead of spinning up a server, having that server sit there and run and consume power, getting updates from Microsoft or whoever, whatever platform you're on, it's sitting there just doing idle time. You're actually just using processing power on an existing box from somewhere else that's being managed by Amazon. So it's truly just consuming resources for the time that your business logic's running. And there's not like a server sitting there waiting for work to come through. So that type of tech is proliferated through a lot of the services on Amazon's stack and across all the cloud providers. They all have something along those lines where you're using just-in-time processing to do what you need to do. Lambda is a great example. We're using all of the tech that we can that really helps us get that leg up in the cloud, because you use things like spot instances and different technologies that it really boils down to how efficient can I be in my spend, which also has the byproduct of being efficient in your sustainability efforts as well.
And you had mentioned one earlier, a carbon footprint, a new carbon footprint.
Yeah, the carbon footprint really refers to, as anything's happening, how much emissions are you generating? How much of an impact on the environment are you creating? And so, as one of the things that we're trying to help measure through standards with sustainable IT, but you see this with all the different cloud providers, it's kind of transparency. A big part of these standards, a big part of driving sustainability, is to make sure that you're measuring what you're doing, setting metrics around it, and then setting governance and guidelines and even targets for what you want to do to minimize your impact on the environment. And so all the providers out there have some sort of dashboard where you can look at it. Even at Choice, we're rolling out our own dashboards to look at different kinds of things. I'll give you another example here, Paula. We roll out a partnership with Schneider Electric. We're starting to gather information from the hotels about what their impact is on water, for example, or on their energy consumption, and provide that information back to those hotels. One of those hotels recently, we figured out that they were losing 4 to 6 inches of water a day in their pool. They had a pool leak. We didn't know about it. They didn't know about it. But by fixing that, that saved them $35,000 a year just on wasted water. And so there's a lot of things that just having data, having metrics, and driving towards answers around that data will help you improve, costs, sustainability, all of the fun.
And that's pretty significant in and of itself. What are some of the next generation goals of the organization that you feel that can be achieved?
Yeah, honestly, I think right now our big focus is to make sure that we finish this migration and get our platforms into the cloud. But as you heard a second ago, we're not just migrating to the cloud. We're still rolling out things. Last year, rolling out Choice Max, that revenue management system, the first of its kind. That's an example of we're investing in technology. We're investing in leveraging the cloud to do meaningful things while we figure out, okay, what does tomorrow look like? We have a pulse check on the things that are hot in the world, right? What's going on with ChatGPT? How is that going to affect business? How is that going to affect the world? We have our pulse check going on around, cryptocurrencies. We have our pulse check going on around when the world finally figures out what metaverse is and how that's going to apply to business, right? There's a lot of things out there that technology is really driving a transformation in the world. And so us paying attention to that technology, leveraging the capabilities in the cloud, will hopefully be able to drive better business value. My job isn't to manage data centers. It's not to build this technology that's shiny and can do amazing things. It's to use it for business value and to drive our corporate goals forward. And obviously, one of our corporate goals is sustainability. Same way it is to drive revenue and to help our franchisees be successful business owners.
And what are three top ways you can recommend to CIOs, ways that they can, right off the bat, make their businesses more sustainable and bring savings?
That's actually one of the things that we talk about a lot. If you go follow those links from sustainableIT.org, but really, the first thing that people should really start doing is start asking questions. Tap into the network. There's a large growing number of people that care about this topic, that are involved in sustainable IT or any other ESG related functions, and really just start asking questions. Once you get there, you're going to find out that a big part of this is the network. Figure out how do you collaborate with folks? How do you get advocates, whether it's outside the company, inside the company? How do you tap into the research, the best practices, the frameworks, the standards, all of those types of things? And then at the back end of this, drive accountability. What kind of goals are you going to set? Leveraging those marketing, or sorry, the metrics that you're gathering, and what kind of goals matter to your business? What matters to you? How are you going to get there? What are you going to do to get there? Cloud is just a tool to help you get there, but there's still a lot more that we do. If you look at hotels, for example, some of the data that I saw recently from Amazon called out that hotels have the largest savings opportunity when it comes to energy usage watt-intensity by building type. Now, obviously, not every building is equal, not every hotel is equal, but out of that that data that they gathered, hotels actually consume a lot of energy and have the biggest opportunity to drive savings. So for us, how can we have a big part of that? And everybody's opportunity may be different.
Right. And as CIO of Choice, you have 7,500 franchises. Is that correct?
Yeah, in that ballpark, yeah.
So, how do you communicate to your business partners these very important measures? And, are they required, for example, in order to participate as a member, as a franchisee? Or is it completely optional?
There's a mixed answer there. I mean, obviously, we have brands and we have brand standards and different things that the hotels are expected to do and participate in. A big part of our value is the services and tech we provide for those franchisee owners to be successful business owners. But we have a long history of doing things in this space. So I'll give you an example. We've had a program called Room to Be Green for over 10 years. It's an environmentally friendly, practice for hotels and corporations where they have to do certain things around energy consumption, water, recycling, waste reduction. even down to the type of products they use, paper products, that kind of thing, in their kitchen areas or in their dining rooms. So there's a lot of focus around that for many years with Choice, and recently we kind of evolved that to the new Commitment to Green initiative, which was really where we brought in, let's digitize this, let's talk like Schneider Electric, let's figure out how to get that data, put it in dashboards, put it in front of franchisees, because as they drive those efforts forward, a lot of times it translates to dollars in their pocket as well, right? So there's an added benefit of these things matter. And by the way, you just saved $35,000 a year because you weren't, leaking water into the ground from your pool, that kind of thing. And so there's an added benefit. So we have a combination of programs that we roll out. Now, a lot of the work we're doing on technology side is really behind the scenes. It's not visible to the franchisees. The way they see our leveraging the cloud is in how we move faster.
Mhm.
So as we're able to do things quicker, faster, better in the cloud, leverage the hundreds of thousands of employees Amazon has building brand new services and tech every year, and we're able to use that to deliver business value, that's where they see that impact and that opportunity. So it's kind of a both streets matter.
Well, that's great. I assume that all the clouds out there, though, have sustainability benefits.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the main premise there is they're all different. They all compete against each other, but they all have the same targets. They're all participating in, the energy targets and goals with renewable energy targets. They're all helping drive down costs by driving up efficiency on how you use their workloads. So each one of them is going to have a different approach to it. Some may be more successful than others, but at the end of the day, the reality is they're going to be way better than anybody else with regards to managing the data center efficiently, and they have a vested interest in making sure that it's done efficiently and effectively. Where everybody else, we're not in the business of data centers. We're in the business of whatever our business is. And so leveraging them gives you the added benefit of both the tech and the sustainability.
And aside from hospitality, what other verticals do you see as potentially benefiting the most from sustainability?
Maybe I'll answer your question a different way because I think there's an interesting data point for folks to kind of keep in mind right now. Whether or not you believe in, where the world's going with climate change and all that, it's kind of a side point here. But I'll give you a data point. So there's a company called Swiss Re that's a big insurance giant, and they have a prediction that the not acting on climate change, so not driving up sustainability efforts around specifically environmental, is going to destroy about 18% of GDP by 2050. And so, according to their article, if that's true, that also correlates to about a 3-degree shift in global temperatures. So there's the Paris Agreement and the targets that were set there. But let's just pretend that they're right, and at some point, whether it's 2050 or 2070 or sometime in the future, doesn't matter. For the sake of argument, let's pretend they're right. At some point, that happens. Well, if that does happen, now you're talking about an impact that is, Miami's underwater, Bangladesh is underwater. So some of these places have become uninhabitable, right? Now, I'm not, prognosticating that this is going to happen. I'm just saying that if we don't start caring and we don't start trying to have an impact now as technology leaders or as leaders in our organizations, that can happen. And if it does, that's our children, that's our grandchildren. So again, going back to sustainableit.org, we felt like it's time for us to start acting. And so that's why we're trying to drive these efforts and initiatives forward.
Well, that's great. And do you see the U.S. government helping you out and other governments to achieve these goals with maybe tax rebates?
I can't speak to all that. I honestly don't know the answer with regards to what each government's going to do. I will say that there's very obviously attention to it because you're even starting to see expectations on how companies report in their annual reports around their ESG efforts. So there is a focus, there is attention to it, and people do care. But it's, obviously every country's a little different.
Well, Brian, thank you very much for your time and on such an important matter. We all appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me today, Paula.